Hello and welcome to another video on what not to do in a storyboard test. First off, right here, our artist did alright with an establishing shot, but he didn't establish where we're at. So one quick fix to do that is to add signage. Write it down on the buildings where we're at if you must. Another thing that this artist didn't do is they didn't do any notations. For this particular scene, they wanted to have a camera movement, but they didn't do any camera movement notations. So be sure to add that to your storyboards if you were including a camera move. Here on this next page, the composition is a little dead center. All the important points are in the very smack middle, and that's generally not a very good thing to do on a storyboard test. Close-ups are really good to get a read on the character's emotions, but if your character isn't really emoting, then there's no need for such a close-up. One fix for this is to have the camera move back just a little bit up to their chest and have the character act out their emotions. For this one, I would have the character actually sigh instead of just writing down in the actions, character sighs. Again, we have another establishing shot, but as the previous mistakes, all the details are in the dead center. And once again, the artist forgot to add in their camera movement notations. Another important thing to know when storyboarding is to include arrows of your character's actions. If they are coming into frame, be sure to draw in the arrows to indicate that the characters are coming into frame. And write the word in and circle it. Same thing if the character is moving out of frame. Have the arrows point out of frame and the words out encircled. However, this is usually for TV series and not in film, but you want to be as clear as possible when you're doing these storyboards. Here, I feel like the artist could have done a little bit more with the actions. What's supposed to happen here is that our characters get kicked out of their own home living place. To show them getting kicked out, the artist decided to show a finger pointing out the door and the characters running out. Since this is a cartoon, you could have as many liberties as you want to go about this. One suggestion I would do to do this is to have the characters literally get kicked in their behind and getting literally kicked out of their place. Another thing is that the camera angle they used is a little boring. So to stage this in a little bit more of a dynamic light, I would lower the camera so the door would look huge and menacing over our main character. Speaking of staging, if there's an important element in the scene, make sure that element is the dominating one in the scene. Here, for some reason, the artist put a lot of emphasis on this tree. This tree isn't exactly important to this scene, so it doesn't need to be that big. What is important, however, is what's going on in the background, which is another establishing shot. However, again, with establishing shots, you need to establish where we're at. Right here, we're in a character's best friend's house. So we could just go ahead and show that with a little mailbox with the character's name on it. On the third panel, I really like the way the artist has framed it, but I feel like he could have pushed it just a little further. And by that, for that fix, I would put the camera over the shoulder just a little bit, so it's a little higher and is looking down on our main character with pity. In these storyboards, you want to try to get some emotions in each of these scenes. Unlike in comic books, you don't have the luxuries of drawing little comic bubbles that indicate your characters are talking. To avoid that, have your characters act instead. Another good thing about this is because you're mostly relying on showing, you could have your characters use props to convey what they're trying to communicate as well as their dialogue. So here, this character is berating our main character for not becoming a doctor or a lawyer. So the character could pull out a stethoscope and a gavel. Again, the camera angle here is a little boring. So in order to fix that, I lowered the camera angle just a tad bit so we could see more of our main character's face. And also lowering the camera, the background character becomes bigger and menacing because that character is literally talking down on our main character. Once again, close-ups are really good for reading your character's emotions, but to really sell it, you could also vary up the camera angles. Here, I would probably do a little bit of a Dutch angle to show our character's mind space is a little unhinged. Again, the composition's a little dead center and all the important stuff's in the middle. Try not to do this too often. With backgrounds and storyboards, you could tell a story with the backgrounds. Here it is established earlier that our main character's office space, or the business they're running, has gone bankrupt. So you can add some props and details in the background that indicates that and help along the story. For this one, I feel like the artist could have done a little bit more with the acting of the character. Our main character has just ran off from his friend's establishments after their overbearing mother followed them down for taking the path that they had taken. So when they get to their office, they probably aren't really high energy. So instead of showing them that they're just nonchalantly walking in, how about they just slouch and slog themselves through their office place and crash into their sofa and crying instead of just jumping onto the sofa and laying down. What's wrong with these three panels is that everything here looks a little stiff. Right now, our main character is supposed to be in a train station taking a bath because he's unable to afford a place with a hot shower. For here, I will help the scene out by making it feel lived in, like these characters live in an actual universe and they're not just cardboard cutouts placed around in the scene. So I will probably give the train attendant a little bit more attitude. He's been here, seen everything that goes through, and is bored out of his mind. Alright, that's all the time we have for this session of What Not to Do in a Storyboard Test. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.